Welcome back to Eye on Foxborough. I'm Chris Mason here with Mark Daniels, and Drake Maye is a New England Patriot. In last night's first round of the NFL draft, the Patriots stayed put at number 3 overall, did the straightforward thing, and just took the best quarterback on the board in Drake Maye. Mark, I'd ask you if this was the right move, but I think the good people all know how you feel about Drake Maye at this point.
Drake May's been my guy, Chris, the entire time. It feels really good when that happens. From what we heard early, and I'm gonna add, just throw this out there. On February 29th, MassLive reported the Patriots had a plan to fix their quarterback position. It was sign a veteran, trade Mac Jones, and draft a quarterback at 3. And as we reported almost 2 months ago, that's exactly what had happened. They signed Jacoby Brissett, they traded Mac Jones to Jacksonville, and then they drafted Drake Maye at 3. And that was always the plan, Chris. And my understanding of like how the Patriots viewed this draft, it was a no-brainer. They liked all top 3 guys: Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels. They knew they were going to get one of them, and that's why they stayed put. And I thought it was interesting. Elliot Wolf on Thursday night even said, like, they've known for weeks they were drafting Drake Maye. They knew it because they found out Washington was going to draft Jaden Daniels. But also, Elliot Wolf even said, like, the serious trade talk stopped weeks ago. So, like, so much for all the reporting and the rumors about the Patriots talking about JJ McCarthy, or they're going to trade back. Like, that wasn't legit. No, what was legit is what MassLive reported on February 29th, that the Patriots were going to draft a quarterback at 3. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm thrilled, Chris. I mean, Drake Maye was, I would say, my favorite fit for them. And I'll tell people a story here. The day they hired, I believe it was Gerard Mayo, or the day, actually, no, it was the day they mutually parted ways with Bill Belichick. Me, Chris, and Karen Gregan were walking, I think, from the Gillette Stadium press conference room. We were just talking about the draft because at that point we all started watching, highlight films and different tapes of the quarterback prospects, but really we were all focused on Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye. And Karen asked me and Chris, "Who do you guys like? Like, who's your favorite?" And we were all unanimously Drake Maye. And that was like what, January, February? I'm trying to remember when it was. I think that was
Yeah.
January, February. But we were all in on Drake Maye very, very early. So for it to come to fruition like that months later, it's awesome, man. I felt really pumped about it. One, because we were right, but two, because it was the right move for the Patriots to make. They got a really good, young, athletic quarterback with upside. Drake Maye era is here, man. How are you feeling?
I think maybe the most important part of the whole thing is that they made this pick with conviction. And it's one thing to be in that spot and just be like, all right, we have to take a quarterback. We need one. I guess this is the guy we're going to take. They couldn't pick May fast enough where, if some of this recent reporting was true, where, they were really looking to trade out, they would have bled that 10 minutes on the clock out, seen if they had gotten a Godfather offer, because that's when teams get really desperate, right? When the other team's on the clock, if you really want to jump up to 3, that's when you get the blockbuster. May said they called him right at the 10-minute mark, the second they were on the clock, to be like, hey, man, you're our guy. Like, we're going to pick you. And they didn't even even with the ESPN stalling, they couldn't come close to filling the whole 10 minutes before the pick was in. And, they were on their way. So I think the confidence that they have in this pick is what really jumped out to me right away, where it's like, okay, you're not even listening to offers. You're not listening to offers for this pick. You like Drake May. You want him to be the guy. You're moving forward.
Right. And how about this? Like, there were national reporters reporting the Patriots were going to take offers while on the clock. I mean,
Right.
that was completely wrong. That was false. In fact, I was driving to Gillette Stadium yesterday. I'm texting with the source inside Gillette Stadium, and I'm asking about JJ McCarthy because there's all these rumors about him. And I was told, like, point blank, that would have been a reach for them at 3. They did not view JJ McCarthy or look at him seriously as the number 3 for their number 3 pick. And the reason, Chris, they were locked on to Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye the entire time. And I thought Elliot had an interesting omission too. He sort of said, like, I think we hid our intentions really well. And Elliot also called some of the rumors, quote, BS, which they were. You know what I mean? There was a rumor out there that Elliot Wolf was pushing for JJ McCarthy, which was just false. Like, I would just say, at the end of the day, people, remember who got things right, remember who got things wrong, and keep listening to our podcast and reading masslive.com because we get things right.
Yeah, keep score. But it did seem like Elliot was really amused by that, right? Like his response, that was in response to a question that was just like, what's surprised about this whole process? And he's like, how much BS is out there and how much stuff is just not true. And it does feel like a lot of that came from the national level too, where it's like you said, That's 100% wrong. They're listening to offers on the clock. Like they didn't come close to doing that. They called May immediately and had the pick in. They're like, this is our guy. Boom, we're moving forward. So, Mark, do you think that they've learned from the Mac Jones debacle? And do you think Gerard Mayo has a better grasp on how to, put Drake May in a position to succeed, develop him the right way?
100%. And this isn't a surprise to Chris because let's just say a source told MassLive the other month that the Patriots, they essentially have admitted internally that they were the ones to ruin Mac Jones. I believe the quote was, quote, "We ruined Mac Jones." The Patriots know this. They know what happened with Mac Jones over the last 3 years cannot happen again with Drake May. I mean, it fell apart from everything, from the way Bill Belichick handled his OC, his quarterback coach with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, to the way he failed to surround Mac Jones with adequate weapons, to the way they failed to build up the offensive line. I mean, Mac Jones's best offensive line, Chris, was during his rookie season. It got worse in 2022 and 2023. They had a massive issue at right tackle for almost 2 years before they reluctantly moved Michael Wenu to right tackle. They failed to re-sign Jacoby Brissett, who was their best offensive weapon, and Jacoby wasn't even number one. Like they just
Jacoby
failed.
Myers.
I'm sorry, Jacoby Myers. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett's on my brain. They just fail to support a young quarterback. And what they have to do with Drake May, it's really obvious. In fact, I asked Elliot Wolf last night, what do you have to do to support him now? And the first thing he said was, we have to get better offensive weapons and we have to shore up the offensive line. Right there, Chris, they're admitting they need a number one receiver and they need to make sure they have a good starting left tackle. And I would say right now they don't either, right? They don't have either. So your question, have they learned? 100% they've learned that they made some mistakes and they're going to try to do this differently. I think it starts though with not rushing Drake May, and if he's not ready to start, they'll start Jacoby Brissett. But also, Chris, they're going to be looking to add a receiver, whether it be on day 2 of the draft or in the trade market. They're going to try to add a tackle and a receiver here at some point, whether it be a veteran or a rookie. So yeah, man, I think they absolutely learned, and hopefully they do not repeat the same mistakes.
One thing that really jumped out to me last night during Gerard Mayo and Elliot Wolf's press conference that I thought was a cause for optimism was that like Gerard had gotten a question like much later and then was like, no, hold on. I want to go back to like what Elliot said 2 questions ago and just clarify that like he's not the starter. I'm not saying he's a starter right now. We do not expect him to come in and be a day one starter. And like the fact that Mayo wanted to make that as clear as he did and like doubled back and was like, I just really want to make sure that everyone's aware that he's not coming in as the day one starter. It's like perfect. Like he should not have that expectation on him. If he lights it up at training camp this summer, looks like he's way ahead of where he is right now and like makes insane progress, maybe. But I think you're definitely looking at him sitting behind Brissett, and I think that's going to be the best thing moving forward, and especially given the state of the offense right now.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna toot our own horn again. Back at the combine, it goes back to one of my conversations with the Patriot source. He told me when telling me the plan to sign a veteran bridge backup, the idea at the time was, hey, we want to bring in someone who can start for us in the event the rookie we draft isn't ready. And now it was also explained to me, hey, listen, if the guy we draft is CJ Stroud, he's going to start from day one. But the Patriots don't want to rush this process. They want to take their time. And now that's a page out of the Packers with Elliot Wolf. That's what they did. They did it with Aaron Rodgers. They did it with Jordan Love. Now, those guys sat for 3 years. I don't know if the Patriots want to sit Drake May for 3 years. I don't think so. But at the very least, they're not going to rush it. They're going to allow him to develop. And when you listen to people who, analyze Drake May, the big thing is, well, his footwork is sloppy and some of his mechanics while throwing are elongated. You know what? You have Ben McAdoo, TC McCartney, and Alex Van Pelt to work with them now. Let him work with them for this entire offseason and throughout the season if you have to. And if he's not ready, sit him. Start Jacoby Brissett. And if the worst thing that happens to this team this year is if you finish under 500 with Jacoby Brissett, you know what that means, Chris? You get a good draft pick next year, and then Drake May maybe is ready to start. So I don't hate it at all. I don't hate taking this process a bit slow.
Yeah, a successful season for the 24 Patriots is Drake May improving and looking like he's like gonna be the guy moving forward. That's a successful season. I know Robert Kraft at the owners' meetings was like, well, playoffs are still the expected. No, nobody's expecting them to make the playoffs next year. It's about the offense looking watchable and behind the scenes or eventually into starting role. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but it's Drake May like markedly improving and looking like the long-term future of the franchise. That's a successful 2024 for this team.
Yeah, and that's why I think when you come down to their draft pick, last night they get in. I give them an A+, man. They drafted the guy they were supposed to draft. They got the best player available at a position of dire need, man. That's how it's supposed to be.
So let's take a spin around the rest of the first round because it got pretty wild out there where you ended up having 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks. I mean, I think the biggest surprise to everybody was Michael Penix Jr. coming off the board fourth. Went to the Atlanta Falcons at number 8 overall. What was your reaction to Atlanta snagging Penix there?
Atlanta messed up and they should have hired Bill Belichick and they should have let Bill Belichick run their personnel department, honestly, because it was a terrible decision. They signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $100 million deal with two fully guaranteed years. So he's making like what, like 50 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. You paid Kirk Cousins to win now. Draft a player at 8 that helps you on defense because from everything we've been told was the Falcons have these young pieces on offense with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, but they need some pieces on defense. Why pass it up, man? Like why do that? Like, it's one thing to say, all right, we're going to draft a quarterback and let him sit and develop. Yeah, do that in the second round, not at number 8. You're gonna sit at the number 8 pick for 2 to 3 years. Not to mention, Michael Penix is 24 years old. What are you doing? Like that was just it was such a giant head scratcher. And my first reaction was they messed up. They should have hired Bill Belichick. Honestly, it was just a terrible decision. I hate it.
It's one of those things where usually these things make no sense right off the bat, and then they make more sense with time where you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. I don't. This is the opposite, where like the longer it goes on, the more it's like, what? Where initially it's like, oh, maybe they're like trying to hold Penix hostage because they know the Raiders really want him and they're going to trade him eventually or something. But then it was like, no, this is just your regular plan. And like, you could have had the best defensive player on the board, like literally any defensive player on the board you had right there, and you could have done that. And instead you were like, we're taking Michael Penix. Does not make a whole lot of sense. Who do you think
It
Bill
was,
Belichick would have picked in this spot? You
oh,
used to the thing about Bill, doing a better job. Who do you think he would have taken?
you know what he probably would have done? He probably would have traded down.
Yeah,
Honestly, like with the fat what the first defensive player went off the board at 15, right? And the Falcons, but people said need defense. So if you're the Falcons and you're Bill Belichick and you're at 8 and someone wants Penix, you're recouping a ton of assets, you're moving down and you're drafting one of the best defensive players on the board. That's what he would have done. We
yeah.
know it, right?
Right. And the first corner didn't even come off the board till 2022 to Philly. So I think he 1000% would have moved down in that spot. And yeah, you're right. It would have been the right move. But Atlanta
And
doing
and
doing
how about
something.
this, Chris? And how about this? So you had all these quarterbacks go off the board, and JJ McCarthy goes number 10. So Minnesota trades up a spot. Had the Patriots done that deal that people were saying they should have done, and they went to 11 and 23, dude, you're out almost all the quarterbacks other than Bo Nix. That would have been a disaster. Think about that for a second. If you're the Patriots and you're at 11 and 23, that and you come away with Bo Nix, I would have felt much differently this morning. I think honestly the Patriots definitely, as everyone knows, made the right move that I think, with Drake Maye, but like man, it is very good they did not trade to 11 because what they would have had to done, as we've talked about, was take the assets they got and then move back up.
Yeah, I think if you look at the way the board played out, there's no way to see it other than like, oh yeah, they play this correctly. It's like just stay put, do the smart thing, make the pick, don't try and get too cute and move forward. And that's what they did here. So around the division, the Jets at 11, they traded down with Minnesota actually went up to 10 to get McCarthy. The Jets went down to 11 and got Olufashanu. I really like that pick for them. I think I think he's going to be a player, and that was a pretty obvious need.
Yeah, they signed Tyrone Smith, who's been injured a lot, and from what I heard about him, doesn't love to practice. He's sort of on that veteran maintenance schedule. He'll practice on Friday, so they need to shore up their offensive line. You saw that last year with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, first game tears his ACL, so you need good tackles in this league, especially with an aging quarterback on an Achilles injury. Really good move by them.
Yep. And then the Dolphins are down at 21. The board actually fell pretty well for them because they obviously needed defense and nobody was taking defense for quite the first half of the first round, really. So they got Chop Robinson at 21. I think that's a good move for them too. Like they needed that and they wound up with one of the 5 best defensive players in the draft in the 20s.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Dolphins have a very, very good offense. They're lightning fast on offense. So what they need to do is shore up their defense, especially if they want to compete in the AFC against Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. I'm not talking about the Pats yet, but yeah, smart move by the Dolphins.
Yep. And then the Bills traded out of the first round. I'm not entirely sure what Buffalo's doing yet. It'll be really interesting. They're the one team slated to pick in front of the Patriots in the second round. So Patriots are going to have to probably go off of them, barring a trade. Um, but the one pick at the end of the first round that I think perked both of our ears up was the San Francisco 49ers taking Ricky Pearsall at 31. Mark, what did that say to you right away?
They are trading Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel, Chris. I mean, they drafted a receiver in the first round. And they have Brandon Ayuk, who's disgruntled. He wants more money. They have Debo Samuel, who has 2 more years left in his contract. They have Christian McCaffrey. They have George Kittle. Now, theoretically, you could keep them all, but man, what this says to me is they are going to trade a veteran, which brings us to the Patriots because I think the Patriots should trade for Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. Now, there's been multiple reporting on this, Chris, over the last 24 hours. Tommy Kern has reported that the Patriots have checked in with the 49ers about Brandon Ayuk. That would probably cost them their second-round pick, 34 overall. I would do it. Now, Josina Anderson has also said the Patriots have called about Deebo Samuel. If I had to guess, trading for Deebo Samuel would be somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round range. I don't hate either of it. And here's the deal. You trade for Brandon Ayuk, Chris, you're throwing a ton of money at him. And before you make that deal, you have to come to an agreement on an extension because you're not giving up a second-round pick and maybe more for a player who will be a free agent. And if it's Deebo Samuel, he has 2 years left in his contract. I think it's 36 million over the next 2. He's 28 years old. He's often injured, but he instantly becomes your best receiver. So either or, Chris, hey man, if I'm the Patriots, I am calling the 49ers right now. Just pick up the phone. Let's get it done.
I think I'd rather the Ayuk trade just because I like that player a lot more. I think he's done it consistently. He's out there. And I think that's why it would cost you more. But I think, the NFL is a league where you get what you pay for. And so I would invest, I would send 34 for Ayuk, extend him, boom. Like, you're going to have to pay him. Guess what? The Patriots have a lot of money lying around. I'd rather have that in Brandon Ayuk's pocket than Robert Kraft's. So that's the trade that I would make there.
You're not wrong. Brandon Ayuk last year caught 75 passes for over 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns here and second team All-Pro honors. He's 25 years old, and Chris, he's durable. He played 16 games last year, 17 the year before, 16 the year before that. Brandon Ayuk is a really good player. And Elliott Wolf has said they want to get faster. They want someone who could take the top off a defense. That is Brandon Ayuk. He's an outside receiver. I believe he played 75% of his snaps on the outside. He's lightning quick. He has good hands. He's electric. Dude, you'd instantly weaponize the offense. And what the Patriots would do is they'd set Drake Maye up for success. Even if Drake Maye doesn't start this year, he comes in year 2, and he has Brandon Ayuk as his #1 receiver. Dude, that would be a phenomenal move for the Patriots. Now, I think they'd probably have to watch out for the Buffalo Bills because, frankly, if I'm the Bills, I'm doing the same thing. I'm offering the top pick in the second round of the 49ers because the Bills lost Stephon Diggs, and they want to weaponize their offense around Josh Allen. So man, I would love a Brandon Ayuk deal. I would want it to be done before lunch today. They have all afternoon. The second round starts at 7 o'clock, but I'll say this, say it is Deebo Samuel, right? And say the deal is for a 3rd or 4th round pick. I'd really be in favor of that. Deebo is 28 years old. He has injury concerns. His best season came 2 years ago in 2021 when he caught 77 passes for over 1,400 yards. He also rushed that season for 8 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel is just a jack of all trades where you can use him out of the backfield, outside, inside. I thought he was like a pure slot receiver. And when I checked his snap count, Chris, it actually said 65% of his career snaps have been on the outside. So, although Deebo Samuel, I would say, is not quite at the level as Brandon Ayuk, you would instantly get, I would say, a #1 receiver because Deebo would be your best receiver. You get him on 2 years left in his contract. But also, it wouldn't cost you a second-round pick. And in this hypothetical scenario, you could draft a tackle in the second round and then have Deebo Samuel in the 3rd-round pick. Hey, man, I'd be for that as well. That would be a good move.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd still prefer Ayuk in a 3rd-round tackle there, but either way, if we're running the show in Foxborough, it sounds like we're both trading for a 49ers wide receiver. We will see if Elliott Wolf decides to go that route, but thanks for following along, guys, and we'll catch it further on down the trail.